Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. And we have a Bachelor in Paradise supplemental video here. Michael A. has responded to some of the criticism he has received for what I guess you could call favoritism, a privilege that he and Danielle were able to escape the Casa Amor style switcheroo, where the women were exiled from the house and new women were put on the beach. The Temptation Island sort of thing that went down. So we'll discuss what he said in his Instagram stories, and also the people that can relate to him sharing his story and how therapeutic it's been for anyone who has lost a loved one. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals, and I'm also on Patreon at patreon.com/DaveNeal. Today I'm back in the Power recapping studio after my amazing trip home, and I'm sharing all of this content with folks over there on the Patreon. So if you want to see the beautiful resort that we stayed at, this was me flying my drone. I'll have all of that content along with the wedding ceremony. So that'll all be available on Patreon. You can go check that out all right now. That's all over there, patreon.com/DaveNeal. Okay, so we talked about this story yesterday. Shuttle Dave made this on the way to the airport. Sierra feels disrespected watching Michael and Danielle on Bachelor in Paradise as Bachelor Nation weighs in on convenient storyline. Now, of course, Michael said, oh, I don't know. He used whatever excuse you normally use. It's not you, it's me. I feel like I'm not there, whatever. You're great. Oh, when you're just not that into someone, which was probably the case. And then, of course, now, unfortunately, Sierra has to watch Michael fall in love or start to fall in love with Danielle. Now, of course, Sierra sounds like an amazing person, and you just wish that she had other opportunities or people there that maybe she could have been into. But, as it happens, all of her eggs went into the old Michael basket, and that did not work out well. So who's Danielle? Of course, we know she was on Bachelor. She was on Bachelor in Paradise even. And, of course, she also has something in common with Michael in that she lost her fiance. Bachelor fans learned during Maltby's appearance on the show in 2017 that in 2011, her then fiance Nick died. The couple had been engaged 3 months when her fiance passed away following a drug overdose. She said on the show, "I was engaged and 5.5 years ago he passed away. He overdosed on drugs and I found him. I didn't know he was an addict, so it was a complete shock." We definitely need to normalize the way we discuss addiction, whether it's alcohol, opioids, food addiction, sex addiction, whatever addiction is. It doesn't define who somebody is. It's a problem that they're going through. And so many times through shame and other reasons, people don't share when they need help. And then, of course, sometimes we find out it's too late. If you've seen that show Dope Sick on Hulu, it won a whole bunch of awards, starring Michael Keaton. It's just heartbreaking to see that how addiction can creep up with the vulnerable. Okay, so they have a lot in common there. And I'm going to share the video. I'll do this real quick. I literally can only play this like 3 seconds at a time. But here's the clip of Danielle and Michael talking about love and loss on Bachelor in Paradise.
I can only be with people that are scarred.
So he says, I feel like I can only be with people that are scarred.
Have them in their beautiful
it's life experience. It's just things that shape you.
And then Danielle says it's life experience and things that shape you. And by the way, shout out to her for the RBG earrings right there. So Danielle, she's a legend in her own way on Bachelor. This is her at least third go around, if not more. But here's what Michael had to say. I know people have their opinions about me right now because, of course, he was criticized heavily, you might add, by a bunch of contestants. We made that video yesterday. Again, it's not his fault. The way the edit goes, it's not his fault if they're protecting his storyline. But I'm most proud of messages like this. I love my widower community. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm honored to be a public voice to help explain the struggles and complexities that we face every day. So this was a response that he got. Watching Bachelor in Paradise Week 4, Part 1, and sobbing. Michael's story hits hard for widowers who are starting to date and let themselves be open to a relationship again. So many of the feelings he expresses are real and relatable to me, and without Christ, they'd have destroyed me. Grateful for this side of the post-lost dating world, and I'm hoping the same for Michael. Yeah, as we know with Danielle, she lost her husband, over a decade now, and Michael lost his wife to breast cancer just a couple years ago. So they're not necessarily in exactly the same place, but definitely sharing maybe how they can cope or relate, empathy, all that. So let's see here.
History, too, of people spreading false rumors about her.
Okay, so that story is about something a little different. All right, so here's a commenter, a thread that someone made about what it's like being a widow or a widower.
That's a podcast that I was a guest on last month with my friend Paola Rosser in California. That episode just launched today as well. So I'm going to share the link right here. So you click it and go listen to it. If you've ever wanted to know what happened with my first husband, this is the podcast that you're going to want to listen to. And it's really interesting that it just launched today because I don't know if you watch Bachelor in Paradise, but I watch it. And Michael, who's on there, is a widower. And he went on a date last night and with a girl who also lost her fiance. And it brought back a lot of memories, a lot of feelings around that, and like dating after a loss. And I think that it was really well done. And I was looking at his Instagram today and noticed so many people with their opinions and saying like he shouldn't have been on the show, he led people on, like all of this stuff, and just being like so unkind. And I feel like unless you have gone through this yourself, and even if you have no business commenting on what somebody else should do or shouldn't do. You really don't have any business doing that anyways, regardless of the situation.
And again, commenters on the Patreon as we're recording this are saying the same thing. Unless you've been through an experience that left you deeply scarred, you probably don't understand how much it influences all of your life. It's difficult to share it with someone who hasn't. Totally can understand there.
But like specifically for this topic, like if you've never lost a spouse, like if you've never been a widow, like I don't think you get to have a say on this because grief is a monster. And you don't know what you would do or wouldn't do until you go through it. And I pray that you never do. Wow. So yeah, that just went like really deep and down a hole that I did not expect to go down.
But, very good for her to share that. And others are saying, Elaine in the Patreon right now said, so basically Bachelor in Paradise just sent Sierra in to buy time till Danielle showed up. Yeah, I mean, first of all, if that is the case, you can't be mad at Michael for it. I don't believe Michael coordinated like Danielle will show up, so I need to be in a relationship till she arrives. Like the Brendan Moraes thing. I don't believe that to be the case. I think he just fell for someone and it wasn't really working out. I do think the show had Danielle in their back pocket. I mean, they know Danielle. They know her story of trauma. There's only several people from the show that have the similar storylines, so it's very well possible that they wanted to link them up. Why they didn't just do that right away, I don't know. Someone posted this. Oh, well, this entire episode had me sobbing. Thank you, Michael and Danielle, for being vehicles and voices for those of us who have lost our person and are trying to find love again because we know how incredible it can be. It's beautiful seeing your stories being shared to the world, and it's validating to know that none of us are alone in these feelings and grief. So much love and appreciation to you both. Happy that last night's episode of Bachelor in Paradise gave you hope. Thinking of you during this tough time. Stay strong. There are better days ahead, I promise. Let's see if there's any other posts from Michael here. Everything he said on the show was not only so vulnerable, but how so many of us feel. Yeah, it's like the audience of Bachelor is so skeptical that people are saying like, okay, quit talking about your widow, quit talking about your late wife, quit talking about these things. But it's like that. It's his identity. It's part of his identity, and that's not a bad thing. It's his story. It pours through his veins. It's who he is. To ask him not to talk about it, you're going to get a disingenuous version of who he is. So he comes back from the date and he said, I honestly had no idea that the switch happened. It took me at least 5 minutes to realize that the women had left. So there he is in his high school photo. Okay, so that's all of that with regards to Danielle and Michael. And, there's plenty of misusage of terms. A lot of people call it trauma bonding when two people bond over traumatic events, which trauma bonding, that is not the correct use of that word. But there are comments on trauma and there are articles on trauma and compatibility. Stop mistaking shared trauma for compatibility. You can't build a healthy relationship on an unstable foundation. Now, of course, in Michael's case, this isn't a shared trauma. It's a trauma that they both had of recovering from, from the one that they loved being taken away from them. You can only imagine the type of, how protective you might be to not want to say that you love someone after your true love or the love that you had was ripped away. Anyway, so I didn't want to get into that article because it doesn't quite apply. But the point is that there are a million ways to skin a cat. Isn't that the saying? There's a bunch of different ways that people can sort of, find love. And Michael's still a couple years out of this. So if he's in a headspace where, he's not exactly like, where it is so much of his identity, you have to imagine that someone like Danielle, she just gets to pass the test that much quicker than someone like Sierra or anybody else would because she's been there and she can relate. So they can quickly jump to, almost like not needing, it's almost like getting over the neediness, because when Michael talks to Sierra about his late wife, that's so heavy. But when Michael talks to Danielle about his late wife, she gets to share her experience about finding her fiance died of overdosing. So they instantly have this like sort of heaviness to it that would not be almost fair to have in another way. All right, so we'll have to see how it all plays out. As you guys know, if you've watched any of the spoiler videos, which I won't post any spoilers here, we know how it ends. But again, you'd have to go watch some of the past spoiler videos to see that. On a side note, Jacqueline said, "Hey y'all," this is again in the Patreon, "why doesn't Dave use his intro music anymore?" Asking for a friend. The reason I stopped using my intro music is for two reasons. I noticed when I played the intro music, it was like 15 seconds long, and then people would skip forward. So I figured if I stopped playing the intro music, I could get right into the meat and potatoes. And I know that ruins the Pavlovian reflex of Dave's intro music. I still have it. It's whatever. I just don't use it. And then the other reason is my podcast will be coming out soon, which will clip together all of my different stories of the day. And if I have this going on in the background, then I can't clip it all together. So it's just to get cleaner audio. But I did want to share with you guys, as I've been doing on the Patreon, some different wedding moments. And if you were part of the Patreon, you probably watched today as I got emotional along with a lot of people in the Patreon as we saw Tasha and myself share some love. Now, I can't share with you guys the audio of what I'm about to play, but this is called Last Dance, and this is the song we played to end out our night. So maybe it's even better to play it without the music. But they surprised us. We didn't know as we were dancing to this song that everyone surrounding us that was still at the wedding, hours into the late night, all were ready to party with us. So here it is. And then they just throw flowers and rice and whatever else they're throwing right on that LED dance floor. And then they all came and danced with us. And it was beyond magical moments. I'm probably going to struggle for the next few days just with the dopamine drainage of how fun it was. I mean, you just can't possibly ride that high for so long. So my goal is to drink a lot of water, not have sweets, and try to get back to life with my lady, my new wife here. I got a wife. But anyway, if you want to catch all that video with the audio and all of that, it's on the Patreon. That's where it is. Patreon.com/Dave Neal. All right, folks, that's probably it for me today, unless there's any other breaking stories that come out. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, which will be a busy one because we'll have Tino on Nick Vile's podcast and plenty of other subjects to cover. So on behalf of Donna Summer, that's it. Last dance, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, everybody.